Elements on the periodic table can be classified based on their physical and chemical properties. One of the major distinctions of elements on the periodic table is of metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. Based on the physical and chemical properties of each, we can classify elements as such. Metals can be found on the periodic table to the left of the bolded staircase. So the metals are here. Now, the metals also include these bottom two rows, called the inner transition metals. They really belong in the periodic table, but if they were inserted into the position here, the periodic table would be very wide. Metals are malleable, meaning they can be hammered into sheets or bent. Ductile, meaning they can be pulled into wires. Lustrous, shiny, and good conductors of both heat and electricity. Metals get their properties from their valence electrons. Most metals form ions with positive charges and have valence electrons with numbers less than 4. In contrast, nonmetals essentially have the opposite properties of metals. Nonmetals are located to the right of the bolded staircase on the periodic table. Nonmetals are dull when solid, though many nonmetals are gas at room temperature. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity and are brittle, or if they are solid, they break apart very easily. Also, you'll notice that metals tend to have high valence numbers of 4 or higher, and their oxidation numbers, or their charges of their ions, tend to be negative, meaning that they gain electrons when they form ions. Notice that one of the metals is actually to the left of the bolded staircase, and that's hydrogen. There are several reasons, but that is one reason in which hydrogen is not touching the main structure of the periodic table, because it is not a metal, though it behaves more similar in chemical reactivity to the elements that are in the same column as it than it would if it was placed to the right of the periodic table. The last major group of elements on the periodic table that we would like to talk about are metalloids. Metalloids are elements that have properties of both metals and nonmetals, and they often vary depending upon environmental conditions. The metalloids are located along this bold staircase on the periodic table. To be considered a metalloid, you must be touching the bold staircase along two sides. So boron is a metalloid, but carbon, which just touches a corner, is not. So here are the major metalloids of the periodic table. There is always one exception for all things in chemistry, and in this case we have aluminum as the exception. Aluminum does touch the bold staircase, but experience should tell you that aluminum is actually a metal. Another way to characterize elements from the periodic table is to describe the elements as monoatomic or diatomic. Monoatomic elements are most of the elements on the periodic table. These elements exist as single atoms when found in their most pure or elemental form, whereas diatomic elements can be found in pairs. They are highly unstable when by themselves, so in nature, in elemental form, they are only found in a pair with itself. It is important that you remember the 7 diatomic elements on the periodic table. There are several ways in which you can remember the 7 diatomic elements. My preferred method is using the saying, I brought clothes home from Old Navy. All of these elements, their formulas include their symbol and a subscript of 2. Some of these elements should be very familiar, like oxygen, from living environment, and some of them may be newer to you. Another way to remember the 7 diatomic elements is to use the magic 7. So if we begin at element number 7, nitrogen, and we form a 7 on our periodic table, NOFClBrI, then we will have gone through 6 of the magic 7. Of course, in all things chemistry, there's one exception. So when using the magic 7, we can't forget hydrogen. The remainder of the review for this test can be found in previously recorded videos. The links to these videos will be provided in the description box below. Good luck!